Hello everyone, welcome to A Clear Perspective. I'm Serene. I hope you all had a great Labor Day weekend. It's been a week since the withdrawal of American troops from Afghanistan. Just when everyone was expecting Biden's diplomatic efforts to get more than 100 Americans out safely, we heard disturbing news that the Taliban are holding those Americans as hostages for ransom. Before we talk about Afghanistan, we have a quick update on the recall election in California. There's a week to go before the California recall election on September 14th. The outcome of this election is still unclear, but one thing is for sure. If Californians succeed in removing Newsom from office, it will cause a great change in the American political scene. If Larry Elder becomes governor of California, the governor could appoint a successor to Senator Dianne Feinstein, who is currently retiring. Larry has made it clear that he will nominate a Republican to take over the Senate seat. This would disrupt the balance of power in Washington, D.C. The current 50-50 Senate would become a Republican majority, and Schumer would lose his majority leader role. This would be a rare opportunity for the Republican Party. Tucker Carlson from Fox News said the left is now very worried that Larry Elder would win the election. This is evidenced by the fact that George Soros has made a large contribution to Newsom's campaign. On August 30th, Soros again donated $500,000 to a political action committee opposing the recall of Newsom. Soros had previously given $250,000 twice. So far, Soros' total contributions to Newsom have reached $1 million. In addition, Soros has supported district attorney candidates and criminal justice reform efforts in California, Texas, and other states. According to the Associated Press, Soros had invested $1.5 million in several California district attorney campaigns in 2018. His aim was to unseat prosecutors in several counties and back Democratic candidates. Next, let's talk about Biden and the Taliban. On Sunday, September the 5th, Representative McCaul, the top Republican on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, told Fox News, quote, "We have 6 airplanes at Mazar-Sharif Airport, 6 airplanes with American citizens on them as I speak, also with these interpreters, and the Taliban is holding them hostage for demands right now." Biden's Secretary of State Blinken said there are 100 to 200 Americans still stranded in Afghanistan, but McCaul said the number is in the hundreds. It appears that Biden has now broken his promise made in an August 18 interview with ABC News. At that time, Biden said if Americans who wanted to leave Afghanistan were still stranded there by August 31st, U.S. troops would stay beyond the deadline to get them out. But now the U.S. has no ground personnel in Afghanistan and no control over the airspace. It has no leverage over the Taliban. As things stand now, the diplomatic solution yielded no results. On the contrary, as time goes on, the Taliban will demand more and more, and the diplomatic channel will become increasingly difficult. That is to say, the United States is likely to pay a greater price for Biden's failure in Afghanistan. The U.S. mainland may also become insecure. In addition to potential terrorists hidden among the evacuees, Afghanistan may once again become a haven for terrorists. On September the 4th, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, said that the U.S. withdrawal could lead to a civil war in Afghanistan and the reconstitution of terrorist groups such as Al-Qaeda. In an interview with Fox News, Milley said, quote, I think there's at least a very good probability of a broader civil war, and that will then in turn lead to conditions that could in fact lead to a reconstitution of Al-Qaeda or a growth of ISIS or other terrorist groups. Earlier, Pentagon officials confirmed that thousands of ISIS-K terrorists may have been released from prison. In fact, it is not just the Taliban who are releasing terrorists. It happened in the United States 7 years ago. Let's go back in time to June 2014. At that time, Obama was in power and Biden was the vice president. In a highly controversial incident, Obama released 5 Guantanamo prisoners for ridiculous reasons. These life sentence prisoners were all Taliban leaders and were all considered threats to U.S. national security. At that time, U.S. intelligence alerted Obama that 29% of the prisoners released from Guantanamo were again engaged in terrorist activities. But Obama decided to release them anyway. The reasons for their release were unbelievable. For example, one of them was an Al-Qaeda terrorist. He was released because he started practicing yoga. Another prisoner was freed for his good attitude. And a former bodyguard for Osama bin Laden was no longer considered dangerous because he wanted to open a milk and honey farm. However, soon after being freed, these 5 Taliban leaders returned to Afghanistan and vowed to fight against the U.S. military. Ironically, one of them even met with the U.S. envoy on behalf of the Taliban in March this year. Earlier this year, this former Guantanamo prisoner gave assurances that the Taliban would not retaliate against any Afghans who worked for the U.S. if Biden promised a full withdrawal. But he did not deliver on his promise. There have been numerous reports recently that the Taliban have begun a reign of terror against those who have cooperated with the West, going door to door with a kill list to perform executions. In July this year, after Biden came to power, he released the first Guantanamo detainee who was accused of being a terrorist. In fact, Obama did not just release the terrorists. He was suspected of supporting them. A U.S. Senate report of last December 31st revealed that at least $150,000 in U.S. taxpayer funds flowed through a humanitarian organization to terrorist-linked Islamic groups from 2014 to 2015. The Obama administration was informed at that time that the organization was a sanctioned entity, but the fund was approved by Obama anyway. On December 23rd, then Senate Finance Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley released an investigation report about the relationship between World Vision United States and the Islamic Relief Agency, ISRA. The investigation found that World Vision was unaware that Islamic Relief was subject to U.S. sanctions, because it had been funneling approximately $5 million to an organization which was the predecessor of Osama bin Laden-controlled Al-Qaeda since 2004. Yet, the Obama administration approved a $200,000 grant of taxpayer funds to ISRA, knowing full well that these relationships existed. I am afraid these media reports are the tip of the iceberg. Recently, the Zogby poll found that 20% of potential voters regret voting for Biden in the 2020 presidential election. The Zogby poll is an international polling firm. According to the Daily Wire, the poll was conducted after Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan. As Zogby poll noted, some very important groups, which normally lean left and Democrat, were even more regretful about voting for the president in 2020. By age, 27% of surveyed young voters aged 18 to 29 regret voting for Biden. 30% of voters aged 30 to 49 regret voting for Biden. By political ideology, 29% of Republicans who voted for Biden regret their decision, compared to 21% of Democrats and 14% of independents. Interestingly, the polls also showed that 33% of Latinos and 25% of African Americans regretted their vote for Biden. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time.